Covey Proctor here. I was just reading a pretty concerning study on the life expectancy of the United States. And recently there's been an extreme decline in life expectancy. And the reasons for that being predominantly drug overdose, despair illnesses, suicide, so on and so forth. But the thing that's really alarming to me, and we'll go into UBI and the benefits of that, is the life expectancy and suicide rate of 10 to 14-year-olds. It's tripled in the last few years, which is a huge concern, I think. Obviously, if you're a parent, it's terrifying. It's absolutely horrible. Well, the reason for these things, and what is the reason? What's the backdrop? And obviously, I don't think UBI is going to be a solid fix for this right out of the gate, but I think it does a lot of other things. It paints a better environment mentally, and just overall for kids and families. The biggest problem I think families have is just this feeling of despair and loss that they can't control, and then ultimately that trickles down into the kids. Panic, stress, all of that falls over onto the kids in their normal lives. And as a parent, it's already incredibly difficult, but to try to manage it without any type of release from the stresses of the economy, keeping your $7 an hour McDonald's job. I mean, we're at $7.25 in New Hampshire for minimum wage, with some of the highest cost of living in the United States. I'm not suggesting an increase in minimum wage because I don't think that'll work. I think that's just going to cause them to automate more jobs. McDonald's doesn't give a shit whether you wealth tax them or not. They're going to create more robots. They don't need people anymore, and no jobs really need people anymore. As time goes on, that despair is just going to get more and more apparent, and more suicides at a not just the younger age, but the younger age, I think, is my concern here. And I think that things like YouTube and social media are definitely distorting our sense of connection and empathy, and we become more and more alone as time goes on, and we feel more and more disconnected. We've got to put down our phones, put down the electronic devices, talk to each other. Kids interacting with other kids. Dude, I'm one of the worst parents when it comes to this. And let my kids sit in front of a screen all day. It's tough because it's tough to be a single parent or a co-parent. Family, whatever it may be. Raising kids ain't easy. And when you have something like the new version of the Idiot Tube just to put your kid in front of, it becomes exponentially easier. It's no different than what our parents did to us. The difference is that Idiot Tube is now mobile and goes with them all the time, and is also the primary connection to other human beings, the primary connection to the rest of the world. So slowing down progress is not the answer. I'm not saying we eliminate YouTube. Jobs of the future are not going to be driving jobs. They're not going to be jobs where you're working in a factory anymore. That stuff's gone. It's not going to be your McDonald's jobs, your retail jobs, or even people looking at MRIs. A lot of that stuff has just gone away. Artisan economy is really the future. Trade jobs, HVAC, appliance repair, and then the arts, music, acting, if you're good at it. If you suck, then like anything, if it's a bad product, people aren't going to buy it. And really, that's what it is. That's what we're doing here as a focus. We need to shift away from this thought that the GDP is what defines us as a nation or as people, and move towards something that is focusing on our social well-being, our fundamental well-being as people, but also really calculating how do we decrease this impact to kids, because we're not out in front of it and it's impacting us negatively, and we just put it in front of our kids like a dinner plate, and of course they're gonna fucking eat everything that's on the plate, and then what? They are more anxious than this generation, more depressed than this generation, worse problems with connecting than this generation. Social anxiety is just gonna get worse if we keep staying in our houses, not forcing ourselves out of the shell, and not trying to better ourselves within. I don't think that it's a fundamental personal problem. I think it's We've evolved away from hunting and gathering and into a new paradigm in human evolution. And if we don't adapt to it and fucking wake the fuck up, stop falling asleep at the goddamn wheel, our kids are going to suffer before us, and then we're going to suffer. That is a future that I think that we are not prepared for. We wait until it's too late to act. Always. We never get out in front of it. As a species, we overlook that crucial reality. Life is finite and precious. It exists for maybe a blink for some people, maybe not at all. How you spend that time is important. Look, every single one of us sits in front of computers or technology or TV screen or Netflix or whatever it may be. We all have our escapes. But as the digital age becomes more and more apparent, those escapes are going to become more like addictions, like pornography, like, sexual addiction, any of those things, video game addiction. You can become addicted to just about anything. Eating plastic fucking bags is an addiction for some really struggling people. We'll say it that way. People mentally struggling, to not be rude and brutally unempathic. I do think that those little nuances are just going to get worse and worse. Mental illness is on the rise, and getting help for it is getting harder and harder. As a father of a child who lost a parent at a young age, this concerns me a lot. My kid sticks himself in front of YouTube at any chance he gets, video games any chance he gets, and our responsibility is to limit that. Limitations are the focus here, and I think that as time goes on, it's going to become harder and harder because it's going to become easier and easier to just stick our kid in front of a computer for 4 hours or 6 hours or all day on a Saturday if that's what they want to do, and they're on Fortnite. Like, this stuff is a reality, and it's not something that you should feel shamed about. Parenting isn't easy, and our parents did fucking worse. Some kids sat in front of a TV all day, directly in front of it, heavy amounts of radiation. I don't know. But I don't think that that's any better or worse. But what I do think is worse is the unfettered access to the internet, YouTube, and apps like Chat Roulette, Omi TV, or whatever the hell they are, where people can just access any information, however. And parents are letting their kids on these things all the time. And I think that when something pops up on YouTube that a kid can't understand or mentally adapt to, it starts to really fundamentally impact them. And they aren't equipped yet to handle truths, non-truths, facts, fake news, personal opinions and perspectives that can sound articulate like this. I could be wrong about all of this. Be a fucking idiot. But the fact is I can articulate it well, and a lot of times that's what's happening. People articulating nonsense. And kids, they pick it up. I had to explain to my kid the other day that chupacabra is not a real entity. Well, we don't know if it's real or not. And that nobody's ever actually seen it. And that these people claiming shit online about this usually are just trying to get likes because it's monetization. Explaining that to an 8-year-old is like hitting your head off a fucking brick wall. It's impossible. So when you try to take it away from them and they're like, no, and they have a meltdown, it's because they can't mentally connect those dots. All the things that we don't even understand as fucking parents. Some of us are out there, being complete zombies in our lives and just fucking backwards. And our entire lives become part of this, and we're just as bad as what I'm talking about with the kids. When you become reliant on this shit, it's a never end. And there's no good result. And I think that the entire world is wrapped up in this, and it's not going to get any better for our kids unless we really start to get it. So for the intellectually aware out there, for those of you not stuffing your face in the fucking sand, pay attention, do what you can. Don't beat yourself up about it. That's not what I'm suggesting. I struggle with these things myself, and I am not good at it. My kid sat in front of a screen for 6 hours one day. Not proud. It happened. How do you change it? I leave you with that. Thank you for your time. As always, subscribe, like, that whole thing. And vote Andrew Yang in your local primary. Try to make a bigger difference in your local community where you can. That's more important than a presidential candidate. Thanks again. Take care.